Good morning, India Anambra. Good morning, Nigeria. We gladly welcome you to our Breakfast TV show this morning. My name is Chidimma Orangwa, and as always, we are going to start the show this morning by bringing your way the stories that are trending on our website and also the national dailies this morning. I hope you had a restful night because I enjoyed my night. But then, before we go ahead, we are going to take a short break right now. When we come back, our guest is already seated in the studios of Anambra Broadcasting Service this morning to help us talk about some of the headlines on the dailies. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. And our guest this morning is Amandi Ezenago. He is a public affairs analyst. Amandi, glad to have you this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
You're welcome. All right, quickly, let's start with the stories that are trending on ABS website this morning. The very first story we have is my administration is committed to empowering youth with digital skills to thrive. This is coming from the governor of Anambra State, Professor Chukwuma Soludo. Anambra Innovation Week 2024 kicks off in Oka. NAFDAC warns against misuse of antibiotics in humans, animals. Industrialists Okoye react to Naira scarcity, lot electronic payment. NHRC holds a town hall meeting in Oka, seeks partnership in promoting human rights. Okay, we'll have lots of stories trending on our website this morning. We're starting with the first story from the governor of Anambra State saying that he is committed to empowering youth with digital skills to thrive, because you know that yesterday the Anambra Innovation Week started. The event is holding at ICC Center here in Oka.
Yeah, I want to first of all commend His Excellency Professor Chukwuma Soludo for the initiative that he has the youth in his mind. Training thousands of youths in digital skills is a way to show that I am the governor, I have interest in the youth, and I see the future of Anambra being a state that will be filled with digital experts in different scale concerning the digitalization of tech and innovations. That shows that we are progressing, because any community or any state or any nation that try as much as possible to uphold the youth and empower the youth have a dream for a good future of that state. And that's a very good example that the governor is showing us. And I also want to advise the youth that as you are being trained, put it into practice, use it for yourself, use it for your family, because the world is going digital today. And also, if you are a youth and fortunately you are not, you did not participate in this year's innovation or empowerment and the rest of them, by next year try to find yourself in that, because everything globally is going digital.
Okay, so let's also see the warning coming from NAFDAC, warning against misuse of antibiotics in human and animals. Lately, I got to understand that some people, especially those rearing, what do you call it? Chicken, yes, that they now use antibiotics, feed them or introduce antibiotics in their food just for them to boost bigger.
Yes.
So that when you go to the market, they will be showing you the size and you'll be like, you buy it. And at the end of the day, when you eat those meat, it will affect your health, because the antibiotics inside the meat that you're eating will transfer to your own system. And if caution is not taken, the next thing is that you become resistant to these antibiotics. Even when you need them, you take them, they will not work again in your system.
You know, apart from the antibiotics of a thing, same happens to some malaria drugs that every little thing you take malaria
They'll
drugs.
tell you it's typhoid and malaria
Yes,
without you even going for
without
diagnosis.
going for diagnosis. And at the end of the day, your body will get used to that. Now, for that cure to come, there will be a higher medication. And maybe in the course of the higher medication, that's where that person may have like kidney issues and the rest of them. And NAFDAC sending their warning is a very good idea. But apart from sending their warning, there are some places where these drugs are being sold to these farmers, poultry rearers or poultry farmers, as the case may be. And not just on the chicks or fowl. Some that are into fishery use the same antibiotics to some,
okay.
but not all. Like in the case of the fishery, it's not as rampant as chicks.
Okay, yeah.
So there should be drive, not just sitting down and giving us the warnings. There should be drive. We could remember when the late Dora Akunyili was the MD of NAFDAC, the way she fought against fake drugs, fake foods, and the rest of them. She fought it. And people were seeing the result down to the grassroots. So this is what NAFDAC should also do, not just sit and warn us. Even if you warn the people, what measures do you take to ensure that these antibiotics are not overused? Or even if some antibiotics are to be used, some are not to be used, then is it being produced in the country? Or rather, are they being produced in the country? Or are they being imported? What measures do you people do to ensure that the high rate of antibiotics consumption is reduced? These are the things that they also have to checkmate.
Okay, so
and you know that when they decide that there will be volunteers that will say, okay, yes, I want to volunteer myself to NAFDAC to fight against high usage of antibiotics and the rest of them.
You know, there are people that will still fight it back, people that are actually importing those antibiotics in the country. But just like you said, measures should be put in place by NAFDAC rather, to see that the sale is not being made in the open market.
Yeah.
You cannot just go walking into a niche or into the market and buy antibiotics. And while we wait for NAFDAC to do that, on our individual basis, talking about the poultry farmers and individuals that can just walk into a pharmacist, to a pharmacy shop and tell them to please, I need a drug like this, and you just give the person the drug without diagnosis, without prescription and all that. I think we should understand that there are negative effects this will have on our system. Once you get addicted to taking antibiotics all the time, the next thing that will happen to you is your body getting resistant to that antibiotics, and then, just like you mentioned, you will require higher antibiotics to cure any sickness that comes your way, and then at the end of the day, it's affecting your vital organs. So we all need to heed to this warning by NAFDAC. Having said that, let's quickly see the papers we have on the review this morning. We are starting with the Blueprint. The Blueprint is screaming with 3.46% GDP growth in the third quarter. Nigeria's economy is on course. This is coming from the presidency. And then there are other stories there. We borrow based on your approval. Federal government tells NAS. Shetima seeks a tech-driven strategy to combat terrorism and cybercrime. And then we can still see IHR to NACOM set up committee to monitor 2023 Hajj refund. Banks orders raised over 2.7 trillion naira from capital markets, says SEC. Port Harcourt Warri refineries to be fully privatized. Presidency. NUPRC confirms the 1.8 BPD NMPCL or production figures. You can see that on page 6 of the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Kaduna, police raid Black Sport, arrest 360 suspected criminals. Benue earmarks 835 million naira for nutrition in 2025 budget. Kebbi hosts 2024 National Quran recitation competition. Education finance top rather 682 billion naira. Plateau's 471.1 billion naira 2025 budget. Okay, these are what we have on the front page of Blueprint. Let's also see what we have in the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning. Punch newspaper, the big story is saying Lakurawa, federal government plans more troops as sect spreads in north. And then we have riders there, northwest state procure vehicles, order for troops. Sect spreads to north central. CDS plans more military bases. State tackles NMPCL over extra 1 trillion naira subsidy payment. Jackpot workers on federal government payroll resigning amid probe. And then labor protest NBS job in unemployment rate report. EFCC places Obaseki on watch list, probes contracts. Customs sees a 556 million naira contraband in Ogun State. 2025 budget, 13 states commit 3.8 trillion naira to salaries. Others, US-based Nigerians bag 30-year jail for $3.5 million romance scam. Pensions have outperformed my predecessor, says Adeleke. Okay, we have interesting stories on the front pages of the Blueprint and the Punch newspaper. Over to you, Mandy.
Yeah, let's talk on the federal government planning more
Troops.
Okay,
the Lakurawa sect. Okay, the new terrorist group in the northern part of the country.
Yeah. Most times you wonder why there has not been permanent, or should I say long-lasting solution to this insecurity that we face in this country. At first, it started with Boko Haram. Before we knew it, Fulani herdsmen. Before we knew it, in the southeast, unknown gunmen. Before we know what was happening, another names. We have about 6 or more terrorist groups in Nigeria fighting Nigerian citizens in different areas, or should I say different zones of the nation. And no zone is left without being touched in the aspect of insecurity. Now, I thought a few weeks, or should I say some weeks ago, or last month, they were talking about, the federal government were talking about getting, how do I put it, to hire mercenaries to fight insecurity. Up to today, we've not heard if they later hired or they didn't hire. Now, a new sect of terrorist group has emerged in this nation.
With their funny name, Lakurawa.
That's the thing. Even when Boko Haram started, it just late. So before you knew what was happening, almost the whole north were already, should I say, covered.
Captured, yeah.
Captured, thank you, in the aspect of that insecurity. From there, it moved to the south. And now there is no state in this country that will say that they are not experiencing one insecurity issue or the other. So you see, the federal government have to collaborate with these state governors to fight, because if you look at it, these people, they start from the grassroots, which is a community. And that community is under a local government. And this local government is under a state. Now, what are the efforts of the president, or let's say the executive arm of the federal level and the executive arm of the state level down to the grassroots. You find that once there is collaboration, this insecurity will be fought. So we don't really know, because I know that in the 2025 budget that will be released very soon, the funds and the rest of them, that the fight for insecurity will be captured in that budget. I know that the fight, or should I say, the finances to acquire more arms by the military, by the naval department, by the police and all that will be captured in the budget. Then at the end of the day, you ask, these funds being released, what do they use these funds for?
And it doesn't just end at, setting up more troops to go and fight these people. Now we are talking about the weapons they're going to use. Are they fully equipped? Because most of these terrorists, when you see the kind of armory the kind of weapons they carry, you wonder how they are going to challenge these people.
That is the issue now. Because in this budget now, it will be captured. The funds. Now, where do these funds go to? Okay, let me give an instance. When one of American citizens was captured, what should I say, fell a victim of this insecurity, that was during the time of President Muhammad Buhari. Americans came and rescued this set of individuals. Now, how do they do it? How were they able to do it? Was it political, or was it? So these are the things. Okay, let's say all this traveling that our president has been traveling. What effort has he made to say, okay, this country people are very good in securing the lives and properties of your citizens. Let us go, even though it will be an MOU or what, help us, let us fight this insecurity. How do people do it? Because what is worth doing is worth doing well. So you secure. Is it okay if at the end of the day these lives are being more lives are being wasted in this cause? Who are you going to lead? Will you lead yourself? Because you lead a group of people, and this group of people have their rights to life. They have rights to live. So these are the things that you have to look into. These funds, how do they go to? Is it from the chief of army staff down to the generals, to the brigadiers, down to the media department of the army, down to the... What efforts are you people doing by these funds being released?
Well, I think it was in the early September that we started hearing about this new terrorist group in Nigeria. And one would have thought that by now we wouldn't be talking about them. Probably they would have been subdued by the military, not to be seen in the front page of papers that they are now spreading from one community to another. And that's a big problem for us as a country. But just like you said, let's keep watching and see what the federal government is going to do. They say they are planning more troops, and I hope that they will eradicate those people, because, I mean, we are tired of this kind of stories every day. And then in the front page of Blueprint, we saw where that's a big story there, with 3.46% GDP growth in the third quarter, that Nigeria's economy is on course. And one of the writers there is saying that unemployment dropped by 4.3%. Coming from MBS, that's Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. But then, in the front page of the Punch newspaper, Labour is protesting. They are saying that MBS saying that unemployment dropped by 4.3%. That report is not accurate.
I join my voice with that of Labour. That report is not accurate. How did they get their statistics? Okay, how was unemployment, the rate, how did it reduce? Because to me, it really, really increased. Let's take, for instance, between, let's say, 2 to 3 years, how many companies closed down in Nigeria and moved out of Nigeria? Let's calculate that. Now, these people, most of their staff are Nigerian, are Nigerians. Now, they've closed down, and I think that there was no, should I say, proper remedy to ensure that these people got another job. Now, there was no federal recruitment. You may say, okay, that a good number of them were employed. Now, we've never heard about empowerment. Like when we were talking about ABS website, we discussed how the governor is trying to
I think there's a program
empower
at the federal level that is called the 3MTT. Yeah, they are also empowering youth, teaching them digital skills and all that. But I'm just trying to tell you that we have 1 or 2 programs like that in the country. Probably it's based on what is happening there that the NBS, gave us the statistics that if they have like number of people, of youths, like let's say 1,000 or 2,000 or about 1 million enrolled in that scheme, of course, to them, they are employed.
Okay. I don't want to go to that one yet, so we are sure. Because definitely it might be on the news, but it won't give that feeling, or should I say that vibes that it came out with. So now, even in agriculture, how many farmers we are empowered? Because we heard in the news recently where they will tell us going to agriculture, what room do the federal government in this aspect of agriculture? In the education system, where are the rooms? So you see that at the end of the day, when you must have sat down to check what has transpired in this country for the past 2 years, you find out that the statistics of the MBS is questionable. They have to work on that to, I don't know if they're trying to praise the government I don't know if they're trying to sing their praises or if they are being told what to do. But when you look at the statistics, it's not helping matters.
Okay, so quickly, let's go over to the next paper we have under discussion this morning, or rather under review this morning. The Nigerian Tribune is next. We have senators queries federal government borrowing. Tinubu's ministers justify plans. That's the big story. And the front page of Nigerian Tribune, we have riders saying, President assures better economy as latest GDP report indicates growth. Predicts 2025 rebasing of economy will bring prosperity. That you can see on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. Stakeholders beam searchlight on health sectors. Lament borrowing quackery. Lament booming quackery. Inadequate human resources. Want existing policies on health implemented. Advocate 50% reduction in power cost to hospitals. FCTA releases list of CFO defaulters in Abuja. Over 1 million violent crimes perpetrated against women in 2023, UNODC. Unemployment rate dropped by 4.3% in the second quarter of 2024, still coming from the MBS. NAF destroyed terrorist food depot, kills cause in Lake Chad. At HID Awolowo Foundation webinar, federal government committed to gender equity advancement as Shetima, says HID critical pillar of modern Nigeria. Mama fought for social justice, human rights. Amina Mohammed and so many others. And then quickly we see the Daily Trust newspaper. That's next. Villagers flee as gunmen kill many in Benue State. That's the banner headline on the Daily Trust. We also have stories there like Tinubu didn't seek NAS approval to buy private jet. This is coming from Aparibe. Service sector raises GDP by 3.46% in the third quarter. Northern lawyers condemn attempt to remove CCT chairman illegally. Then down the medical outreach turns Ari in Abia as many hospitalized. Reps lead a march against gender-based violence. Tinubu to present 2025 budget to National Assembly tomorrow. Kano governor flags of recertification of C of O. Well, these are the stories we have on the board papers. Now, quickly, let's look at senators querying the federal government's borrowing. Tinubu minister, they are trying to justify it. And the other paper we saw where they wrote that they did not, that the NAS actually approved the loan before they went ahead to borrow. So, I mean, going back and forth between the executive arm and the legislative arm of government, what is happening?
Coming to that, even if the previous headline didn't mention about the approval, if I'm to talk about National Assembly to query the executive on the borrowing,
Yeah.
I know that at the end of the day, they will still approve that the funds for that they've approved for borrowing. I know that at the end of the day, that they will approve it. So the question now is, from the past administration, let's say we've been borrowing. Now, what measures have we made to pay back these loans? And if you find out we've not even been able to pay back up to 20% of these loans, the previous loan. Now, this new administration began, in fact, immediately they came in, they began on borrowing. To date, they are still borrowing. And we should not be surprised if they should tell us that they will still borrow to facilitate, or should I not facilitate, or should I say to finance the 2025 budget. We should not be surprised. Now you ask a question now. Yes, borrowing is not a crime, it's not a bad thing. Now, where do we invest these funds that you've borrowed? And what are the measures you provide to pay back this loan? Because if you borrow and you spend these funds on frivolities, that means there is no, should I say, there is no long-term or short-term plan on how to pay back the loan. So at the end of the day, we find out that at the end of the day, you ask yourself, what is happening in this country? And to me, I would say that the legislators, that they benefit from these loans. That is why they cannot call the executives to ask, why are we borrowing? Where is the money being, where will the money be invested into? How do we intend to pay back this loan? And when do we intend to pay back this loan? If the executive will be able to answer these questions, and at the end of the day, they don't meet up with the questions, the legislators will still have to call them back again and say, this was the agreement, this. Why are things not going the way as we've planned? So you see, I believe that most of them, they benefit from these loans. That is why it's as if that they keep, not even as if, that's why they keep shut. They keep their mouth shut when things concerning this borrowing and paying back is being brought up in this country. Because I believe that the National Assembly is saying that that they are querying the federal government about the loan. It's just for them to appear on the headline that let you look as if that they are doing their legislative duties. But unfortunately, they will still approve it.
All right, there is another story in the front page of Tribune that is saying the stakeholders beam their searchlight on health sector. Talked about a lot of things. We've been talking about brain drain. That's not even part of what they are saying now. We are looking at booming quackery in health sector. I mean, when it comes to health, we are talking about human lives. And then when we have a lot of quackery in this sector, shouldn't we be so worried? And then they also talked about inadequate human resources, of course, the brain drain issue, because most people, after going through the medical school, all they are looking forward is jackpying to see how they'll leave the country, so to go for in search of greener pastures and all that. And then also there is a lot of things they mentioned, but I want us to talk about the quackery inadequate human resources, and the reduction in power cost to hospitals?
You know, what the first question a good Nigerian should ask is, what gives birth to this quackery? One of the things that gives birth to this quackery is is lack of government involvement in the health sector. Because, let's say for example now, if there is a functioning federal government well-facilitated hospital in this state, for example, they employed qualified and experienced doctors and nurses, give them the requirement, equipment, and everything either at free or at affordable cost for Nigerian citizens. How will someone run a private hospital without being certified by the federal government? It won't be able, because even if you say, okay, let's go to this particular place that is, you may not know that this is a fact. But once you bring it into discussion, someone will say, the federal government have a functioning health system, a functioning hospital, a functioning general hospital in this state. Then you go. At the end of the day, they give you those things that you need to have a good health. Tell me, how will quackery be more? So it's the negligence of the government in the health sector that gives birth to these high rates of quackery. Now, we don't have a functioning federal government cancer health institution. If someone is being diagnosed of one cancer or the other, it's the private sector that runs the processes or the stages, they diagnose and then give in their best. When it comes to the kidney and liver, the vital organs, the federal government don't give these people, they don't provide these facilities. And at the end of the day, you find out that people would like to do one or two things on their own, and it gives birth to this quackery. So, and apart from them providing the health facilities and that to reduce quackery, what is their effort? Do they have any task force that go through the private sectors to know their facilities, if they are up to, if they are qualified to open a clinic, let alone a hospital? So these are the things so they shouldn't complain, because once you are negligent in your duty, don't complain when problems arises from your negligence.
All right, thank you so much for that submission. Let's quickly see The Guardian and the Vanguard newspaper together. Starting with The Guardian newspaper, GDP defies inflation shocks as more Nigerians take informal job. I think it's Guardian that explained it better. More Nigerians taking informal jobs, okay? And then we have there, Edwin Clark, the Christ Rivers political crisis, faults lawmakers the defection. MBA slams EFCC boss for accusing lawyers of money laundering. Federal government defends borrowing as the NMPC LFIRS customs surpass 2024 targets. Minimum wage, Cross Rivers workers embark on strike, rejects government's plea. NMPC defends output amid confusion over all production data. Despite challenges, Nigeria's economy grows by 3.46%. Disco's record 54.2 billion naira revenue shortfall in September. And then, okay, let's also see what we have in the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. We have a whole lot going on in the front page of Vanguard. We're starting talking about the growth in GDP figures. More work needs to be done coming from our President Tinubu. Welcome third quarter growth figure. Services sector drives Nigeria's GDP up to 3.46%. As all agri sectors growth slows. Some says unemployment rate falls to 4.3% in the second quarter of 2024. Mixed reactions trail move to privatize Port Harcourt to Warri Kaduna refineries. 2027 opposition parties null Granite Alliance against APC. Okay. Emami condemns smashing of Chevron pipelines in Delta. Federal government announced we buried based on your approval. And then Southeast sit at home persists despite Simon Ekpa's arrest. Southwest lawmakers resolved to lobby governors. And, okay, so these and many more are what we have on the front page of Vanguard. So let's look at the story. Mixed reaction, trailing the move to privatize Port Harcourt, Warri and Kaduna refineries. We already have a private-owned refinery, which is Dangote Refinery. Now, I don't see the reason why the government they don't actually want to, see to the operation of at least one or two of those refineries. Why saying that it's going to be fully privatized?
And, the fully privatization, privatization,
yes.
Let me calm down and pronounce it, is, I think it will bring more cost of the petrol, especially in this nation.
You mean bringing the cost down?
No,
okay.
the high, it will increase.
Okay.
It will increase. That is one of the disadvantages. And these refineries that are about to be privatized, unfortunately, they were, or should I say they are, until then, government-owned refineries.
Okay.
And I believe that I have in mind that the federal government doesn't have the progress of this nation in mind. What they care is about, let me just say, the leaders, what they care is about their personal gain and interest, because it will be sold. And at the end of the day, where will this money go into? At the end of the day, what will it be used for? Will it be used to service our foreign debts, or will they be used for their personal gain or uses? So, trying to tell us that it will be fully privatized shows that the federal government is incompetent in the oil sector, apart from every other sector that is being affected. First and foremost, they kept giving us promises since last year that the Port Harcourt refinery would be ready. Before we knew, they told us it would be ready by December last year. Before we knew, they shifted it to February. At the end of the day, we started hearing about September. Port Harcourt refinery will be ready will be in use by September. At the end of the day, this is November. It is not in use. Now they're trying to tell us that it will be fully privatized. And once it's fully privatized, where will the competition come in?
Exactly.
There will be no competition. And it is this competition that will give room that when the federal government provides this for us, that it will come down.
And at that point, it will become very difficult for the government to regulate the amount they place on their product.
That is
because this is what we are seeing in the power sector right now.
Because if you say now, okay, the person, okay, let's use Dangote Refinery as a case study. We've seen the battles going on between Dangote and the federal government. Now, at the end of the day, if, for example, that Port Harcourt refinery should be privatized, you find that the CEO of the Port Harcourt refinery will go to strike a deal with the federal government to say, okay, Dangote is not doing well, for example, give us at the rate of it. And they might have division in the regulation. And then you may say, okay, they sold to Dangote at 1,000 naira and they sold to Port Harcourt refinery at 800 naira. That is division and misunderstanding comes in the sector. So is it that the federal government cannot man up enough to take care of at least two refineries? Let us start from there with 2 refineries. Let's say, okay, Port Harcourt refineries, let it serve the southern part.
Yes. Southeast.
Yes, southeast. Then let's say Kaduna. Is it Kaduna?
Yeah,
also?
Kaduna.
Yes, takes care of the northern part. At least these 2.
And then
we can start there.
On the other side.
Then what? Because we can. It depends on the sizes of these refineries.
Yeah.
Then we can say, okay, these are the major ones. Then these ones, you people are going to be like, let's say, distributors or so, as the case may be. You start from there. I was even thinking that Dangote refinery will be an eye opener to the federal government to include it in the 2025 budget of ensuring that we have our refineries functioning.
Well, at the end of the day, an average citizen will still be at the mercy of the would-be owners of these refineries. Well, let's see the last paper we have under review, and that's the Nation newspaper this morning. Nation, Tinubu excited, experts optimistic over 3.46% the third quarter GDP growth. We've talked about that, and that's the banner headline in almost all the papers this morning. And we also have the riders under it saying non-oil sector is key driver. More should be done to boost rail sector. So it's not even the oil sector or the agricultural sector, it's just the other sectors that actually brought about the boost in our GDP. Okay, legal giant, okay, Supreme Court voiding of National Lottery Act. Shetima Abbas, First Lady, intensify push for gender equality. Federal government requests MDAs to accept youth corps members. Lagos House Committee gets 1 month on budget estimate. And then we have why federal government is borrowing by Edu Bagudu FIRS boss. Forensic audit of NMPCL's 8 trillion naira debt claim ongoing. Then what else do we have there? Southeast holds 268,000 IDPs in 158 camps. Wow. The figures are alarming.
It is very, very outrageous.
So quickly, what's your thought on that so that we wrap up with that?
You mean the IDP camps?
Yeah, what is going on there? And we are talking about Southeast, not the northern part of the country that are being ravaged by terrorists. Of course, we saw what happened in Benue. Like people were fleeing from their communities because large number of people were killed.
That is the issue I earlier stated that it should be this fight against insecurity and terrorists and the rest of them has come to a point whereby it is not what one person will fight. It will now be a collective effort. The president should please and pleading call on states of emergency on insecurity. Gather these governors, gather their commissioner of police, the chief of all the security institutions in this country. Sit with them, have an indoor meeting. Don't tell us the outcome of the meeting, because I believe that the issue of security is not good to be made public.
Yeah.
Discuss with these people. Let them brainstorm on ideas to fight these people, because definitely once there is a collective effort, collaboration to fight this insecurity, and their determination to fight it without looking back, without bias, without looking at religious differences or tribe and the rest of them. If I give it 2, 3, 4 months, they will be cleared out from this zone, and it will come down to its barest minimum. Then we can know that the remaining ones that the local vigilante can handle those ones.
Okay, I want to say thank you to you, Emandi, for joining us on Press Review this morning.
Thank you, Chidima, for having me.
Well, that's it on Press Review on our Breakfast TV show. Good morning, Anambra. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Chidima Oranwan.